Another reaction video. Yay, totally original content. Today, I actually wanted to talk about a quick video that I saw because I made a TikTok about this originally while just like walking on the street. But I then came onto YouTube and saw a video about this, and it got me thinking, okay, this would be a really good reaction video. We're talking about the Halo remake that Halo Studios is going to be making. I have my own personal reservations about this, and before we even get started on said video right here, made by Eckerd's Ladder, it says we need to be honest about the Halo remake. I'm not necessarily certain because I haven't started the video yet. I do get a sentiment that he might say what I'm about to feel. And how I initially feel is that Halo CE, Combat Evolved, does not need a remake, and it feels completely unnecessary and like almost like a waste of resources in a way, I guess you could say. I've been an avid Halo fan for a number of years now. It's my childhood, along with a lot of people and probably a lot of people watching this video. But overall, it's one of the few games that I feel like does not need a remake, considering the fact that one, we already got a remaster of it. And two, don't get me wrong, I love Halo 2's remaster. I would have expected the same type of treatment for Halo 2 to be put onto Halo 3 or Reach or ODST. That's what I thought. If we were going to be redoing something, that would have been the vision, as opposed to just doing Combat Evolved a third time. Now, I believe this is a remake and not a remaster. Therefore, they will be changing up core elements of the game and possibly the story as well. Because a remaster is usually just a graphical update, right? Combat Evolved Anniversary basically changed things to the Reach textures similarly. But a remake is similar to like the Resident Evil games, right? I've recently been playing that, so that's what's currently on my mind. Great stuff. It's my first time playing it, but that's not what the video is about. It just kind of got me thinking, I already hate the direction that this is going. I'm hopeful that it's going to be great, of course, because I love Halo and it's my childhood. But I hate the direction that they're going for two reasons. Well, for multiple reasons, actually. One, I believe that in the Halo Studios video that they were talking about the fact that CE was known for its graphics. It was revolutionary for its graphics. And although its graphics were great at the time, that's not what the core point of Halo's revolutionary stuff was. That wasn't what Halo was known for in terms of its revolutionary aspects. It was known for actually making a really good first-person shooter for consoles. It was revolutionary to the first-person genre. So already with that foundation, it comes off as, you know, I almost said Bungie, but Halo Studios has missed the mark a little bit in terms of what their priorities are. You have some eating ice cream, leave me alone. Along with that, I would have focused the assets on, you know, the expansion of Halo Infinite. We were originally supposed to get rumored like a DLC. Why not focus on the sequel to Infinite or something along the lines of that? Why not focus on remastering or remaking, not even remaking, but remastering some of the previously not remastered games? When it comes to how Halo Studios' reputation was, I guess back when they were still 343 Industries and the previous games, it seems that although they did a decent job for some of the Halos, I'm not going to lie, I didn't like Halo 4 at first, and I went to replay it, and I was like, this is genuinely a pretty good game, I'm not going to lie. There were a lot of things that I didn't like, of course. There were a lot of changes that I don't fuck with whatsoever, but overall, it was a pretty decent game. I was not a fan of Halo 5. And Infinite seemed like it was heading towards the right direction in terms of all the aspects, the buildup of the game. It's just that it didn't have much content. But that is when I felt like 343 for the first time was really going towards the right direction. In terms of their storytelling and everything for the campaigns, great. You know, the characterization and like depth and building of characters was fantastic as well. Overall, I know that was a long yap piece before I even started the damn video, but I just wanted to get my insights about the Halo remake. Now let's see what Eckerd's Ladder has to say about this.
Hey, come here. Have you heard the rumor? Halo Combat Evolved is apparently about to see another remake. What's this going to look like? Will Halo Studios simply be polishing one of the most iconic games ever, or is the remake going to be something more dramatic? We'll discuss all of that, some pitfalls Halo Studios needs to avoid, and of course, whether the rumor actually is true on today's video.
Yes, I know, shut up. It does say activate Windows below. Okay, I get it. Just deal with it. You know what? Hold on. Let's change the window just so it gets that out of the way. Are you happy? Huh? Are you happy?
Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another Halo video. Man, I love Halo. I go through these stretches where I just become obsessed with the universe, especially Halo 1 and Halo 3. But as a quick aside, while we talk sparking joy, my buddy Alex sent me this really cool video by Exitaph, who essentially put together the landscape for New Mombasa in Halo 3 and Halo 2. Really cool. I just love how those opening levels of 3 work together. But the Halo Combat Evolved remake, before we get into any of the nuance and discussions, is this actually happening? Yeah, almost certainly. This is one of those cases where there's so much smoke, there's almost definitely fire, and without giving anything away, I will just say that some of the smoke is coming from very reputable people. I want to get an anonymous source. If you want to be that person, reach out. Either way, we'll...
I also just want to get a general thought on the idea of a remake. Before we, dive into this video, do you feel like Halo CE needs a remake? Do you think they should be focusing their assets elsewhere? Do you think Halo should just be put to rest at this point? Or what are your thoughts?
We'll know by the end of this month, as Halo Studios is set to announce the future for the franchise. Recently, Rebs Gaming had a pretty credible leak where he stated the Halo remake will be using a proprietary Halo engine for gameplay with Unreal layered on top for graphics and visual effects. But still,
I also tend to hear a lot about Unreal Engine 5 and people's overall disdain for it, which is understandable because it doesn't feel like it's absolutely perfected as of right now. So if there is a bit of resistance in terms of that, understandable in my opinion. Totally justified crash out. Just hearing about this and every single step and leak and rumor that I've heard so far just does not give me the most amount of confidence, even though I want it to be great, if anything.
Still, that tells us very little. Is this just going to be Halo 1 with a new coat of polish, some updated graphics and lighting, or something else? Well, I tend to believe that we're getting more than just a straight visual remaster here. For one, we already got that in 2011, and it was terrible. That's not to say that, a modern refresh of Halo CE couldn't be good. I thought 343 did a decent job of capturing some of the feel in those early Unreal Engine stills and animations they showed, but the Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Remaster was not it. As its own game, a new experience, it's fine, but it completely loses the atmosphere and feeling of Halo Combat Evolved, and Halo really is.
Even actually playing that, because I've gone through all of the Halo games relatively recently. I was playing Halo 1, and he's definitely right about it losing its sense of atmosphere, because I feel like it went from a lot of their main themes being action adventure, but there were hardcore elements of horror in the first Halo 1, especially when you encountered the Flood. Levels were dark to the point where it felt necessary to consistently have your flashlight on even though it had a battery. But whenever I switched to new graphics, I actually found myself, when areas were too dark in the main game, genuinely being surprised that I played through this several times and just was fine with it. And when I switched to the new graphics, I didn't even need a flashlight in the first place. So it definitely takes that horror thematic element out of it in the middle of the game. Somehow Bungie manages to just perfect the type of atmosphere that they were looking for back in 2001.
Is a big atmosphere and feels game. You're on this incredibly alien, strange ring with Forerunner technology and architecture that is both grand and mysterious and also lonely. That ends up being sort of distilled in Combat Evolved Anniversary to floaty blue lights. But I've said my piece on that before. Here. Either way, I don't think we're going to see a straight graphical remaster here. But if they do, I think they're going to take the approach we saw in that early Unreal Engine footage, which I think would be better at maintaining the first game's visual style, which often feels ripped straight out of a pulp sci-fi magazine. For the purposes of this video, though, let's just assume there are going to be some changes. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I love Halo CE. And I don't think I'm exaggerating here. Probably the most impactful game of my life. It just changed how I saw video games as an art form. You know, I was 9 when it came out, and although I loved games in the past like Super Mario 64, I was really transported into that universe. The thing is, though, Halo Combat Evolved has been well preserved. The Master Chief Collection is there. I'm okay with them taking some risks and making some changes. This isn't like the Star Wars original trilogy, where I think this will be different in a couple of years, but as of
along with that, actually, it's one of those things where I'm fine with the idea of like taking risks, you know, trying something new. Of course, that's what Halo 4, Halo 5, and Infinite were. It was 343 at the time, now Halo Studios, taking the opportunity of what they've seen work and then trying to capitalize more on it. Now, I know a lot of people tend to compare it to Call of Duty at the time just because a lot of the elements started to implement within the traditional first-person shooters that you would see that were popular at the time. So, you know, of course, sprinting was a big thing that people were complaining about. I found that to be fine for the most part, but I think as cool as it is to take the risk, a part of me is like, put the risk towards something new instead of having to try and change the past, because this once again just feels like a reach for nostalgia. And he even said himself, you know, the Halo CE remaster was horrible. Well, not great at least. I didn't find it to be that bad, maybe because I haven't put an insane amount of time in playing it, and I didn't play the multiplayer for it either. I don't remember if it even had that. But I found it to just be one of those things where I would just flick the button back on. Wait, I don't remember if it was Halo 1 that you could be able to like instantly flip back and forth between graphics or not. I know you couldn't Halo 2. But it's one of those things that was just like cool to look at, but not. Oh, no, you totally could flip. You could totally flip graphics. I don't know what the fuck I'm on about. Anyways.
Now, there's no perfectly preserved theatrical cut. We've got Halo Combat Evolved, and you can play it pretty much as is with some caveats. And I know a lot of the technical people have issues with certain aspects of the MCC, but the game also has things which need to be changed. On a basic level, there are some bugs and some things that just don't work nicely. It's always bothered me that, unlike in later Halo games, you can't really shoot Covenant out of their transports. Like, you can damage them, but they don't fall out. They just take damage, then die later. That's a very small thing. But on a larger scale, Halo CE also does have some real structural issues. Most of these, and I'm not saying anything controversial here, towards the back of the game. It's very similar to Dark Souls 1. I always keep the two married in my head, where the opening sequences are so unique and so foundational, but Bungie clearly ran out of time and or money. The first really 6 levels of Halo CE are excellent. You've got different environments, from open ring world levels to the exploration in Assault on the Control Room or the Silent Cartographer, infiltration with the Truth and Reconciliation, and the fear of 343 Guilty Spark. After that point, however, the level design especially takes a really noticeable step back. That's not to say that the final 4 levels or so aren't good. The library, for example, is incredibly memorable, but it also goes on a little too long with not enough variety. 2 Betrayals is a load of backtracking, not only through prior locations we'd already seen in Assault on the Control Room, but also just kind of the same locations over and over again. That's not to say that a lot of the fight sequences aren't good, because they are. It's interesting to have to fight off the Covenant and the Flood without all the tools you had on Assault in the Control Room, but it gets repetitive. I don't know if this is controversial or not, but Keys is maybe my least favorite level in the game. Again, we're back in prior locations, and
things are so dark in this area. Sorry, I want to get back to the point that he is currently on, but like also just looking into this area is so unbelievably dark, where I actually needed, you know, my flashlight to be able to see what the fuck was in front of me. While majority of it in the remastered graphics, you can see everything. You don't even need a flashlight. You don't need anything whatsoever. And going on to his point as of right there, I also heard a take. I don't remember if it was a case of somebody said a lot of CE's levels were, I mean, some of them you were just literally backtracking, but a lot of CE's levels were just like, yeah, the reverse, which, looking back now and actually thinking about it, I do see the point that he's making. And I don't think that it's horrible to have like backtracking in games, although I haven't played it to the finish. Like, look at Arkham, for example. There are a lot of games where or Resident Evil, where you stay within the same limited area and then you tend to backtrack a ton, where it really works. But I feel like in this linear campaign that's Halo CE, it doesn't work as well if the backtracking is way too often. I don't know. Anyways, area's dark. as you were saying.
Design is just clearly much more haphazard than what we'd got in earlier parts of the game. Like, for every level in Halo, pretty much, I can think of a notable squad of enemies, or kind of the way you flow into battle at one specific point, whether it's the beach drop in the Silent Cartographer, the bridges,
in the specific part, there's hunters like right behind
whatever. But Keys doesn't really have that. It just feels like several arenas with haphazard enemies, and I get it. Again, there were real time and money constraints, and Halo is a phenomenal game. These are nitpicks for something which is nearly perfect. So I think Bungie themselves, had they had more money, and
also Halo's one of those games where, like, even though it is 24 years old right now, which is an insane thing to say in the first place, but even though it is 24 years old, this game still holds up to this day, which is hard to say about a lot of fucking games. Like, genuinely, I feel like I can go play on Master Chief Collection. I don't know how well it runs for CE specifically, but I feel like I can go play CE and still have a damn good time playing it. I mean, even for a number of years after CE's release, what I used to play a lot of the time on PC before MCC was even out, or before MCC even came on a PC, was Custom Edition. And some of you might know what that is, some of you might not, but it was basically just Halo CE, but like extremely modded. Like, you would still be able to play the campaign, you'd still be able to play the multiplayer, but then like people would also make their own campaigns, people would also make their own multiplayer levels, their own weapons, their own everything. And then I think also they had Halo Online, which was like a conglomeration of all of the Halos together, like for multiplayer. Like, you would have a lot of the weapons from Halo 1 or 3 or whatever the fuck. Similar to Master Chief Collection, probably half the reason why Master Chief Collection was made, so then nobody was like ripping off their shit, I guess. But it was kind of a huge conglomerate of every single Halo. I wonder if Halo Online is actually still a thing. Regardless, let's finish this up.
More time, would have done a better job with those levels, and with a remaster, that's something that I would like to see addressed. Maybe they could even
I
look
forgot
at
about
some
one
of the
tapping hunters in the
more
back in the middle of playing. So I played on Legendary, and oh my goodness, the pistol and the plasma pistol are obviously the most overpowered pieces of shit in that game, but like, holy, the one tapping hunters in the back hit like no tomorrow. That shit was so blessed. Oh my god, those hunters got shit on consistently.
Grandiose plans for that time in the game. Those are additions, and I think most people would understand the extra content or the reduced backtracking in levels like 2 Betrayals, but what about changes? The big one is sprint. I personally am totally against sprint in Halo Combat Evolved. That game really nails Halo's holy trinity of...
I feel like, yeah, the thing is, I don't hate the idea of sprint, right, in Halo games, but it feels weird to be able to implement sprint in the first 3 Halos. And I think the reason being is because a lot of the time, the overall pacing of the game matches up with your character's speed. You don't feel like you need to sprint. You're not given these huge, vast landscapes where you have to, like, for the most part, if you have a huge, vast landscape, you probably get a vehicle. So I feel like they had placed... This is talking about all 3, the first 3 Halos, but they had placed enough, gravity lifts, vehicles, ways to optimize movement besides sprinting to the point where it doesn't feel like you need to sprint. Of course, Halo 4 changes that, but also maybe there's larger areas where you're on foot and it feels like a necessity.
Of firing grenades and melee. And part of that, and part of what makes weapons like the shotgun so fun to use, is because your base movement speed is so high. You never really have to consider whether you'd like to shoot or move quickly. Just always an option. And sprint, it always feels like one continuous flow. I don't support it. That's not to say I'm going to absolutely lose my shit if it's in the game, but I would rather it not. If you've got long distances to travel, that's why Foehammer gave us vehicles. I would definitely be open to things like new weapons, new enemies, even perhaps some additional equipment. Obviously, Overshield and Camo are already in the game, but I do want to maintain that Halo Combat Evolved feel. The almost boomer shooter, the slow boomer shooter we get anyway, that just makes the game so exhilarating and infinitely replayable. Even AI, definitely give the encounters some new life, maybe add some new units on additional difficulties. I'm open to it. I'm open to really anything. And really...
Also, besides that, it kind of like feels a little bit weird, like lore-wise. You're like, oh, so you're telling me Chief just was not running for the first 3 games? But that's a little nitpicky thing right there. Regardless, though, it felt like the first 3 games had a really good pace to the point where you don't need sprint. I think also a part of me is just like, I like the idea of, I know to keep up with more modern shooters, they were like, we need to think of more versatile movement. So like mantling, of course. Mantling should be in every game. Sprinting, armor abilities, and all that sort of shit. And sure, I like the versatility of that sort of stuff. And of course, that might keep, you know, things a little bit more fresh. Like I really, really like how Halo Infinite's multiplayer is as of right now. That to me is what 4 and 5 should have been. You know, where it's still the basic movement, but then you can have add-ons to be able to like enhance your game. Similar to like Super Smash, for example. Hear me out. Most people probably play only 10% of actual Smash, right? Where they have no items, insert whatever stage, usually a flat stage. But then you also have the ability to choose any sort of items, have any sort of buffs, anything like that on any stages. I like having the option to kind of do both, so then it goes for the casual and the hardcore player. But I don't like it, at least because like now I wouldn't like the most recent Halo to have specifically Halo 1's playstyle, because I've adapted to shooters now and things have changed. But I also wouldn't like the newest Halo to only have modern first-person shooter things. So I feel like Infinite put a pretty good balance in terms of how the whole overall movement should be, but regardless.
I hope you guys are too. I want it to be better than Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. But yeah, I think it's happening. Maybe I can get a source who will go on the record or at least state something anonymously. I'm going to reach out, and if that's possible, I'll edit it in at some point in the video or leave a pinned comment. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on all this and more down below, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
That was a nice video. That was a cool video right there. He brought a lot of good points there, but I also think just overall the general idea for me is that CE does not need a remake. I would start focusing all your other assets on a new Halo game, right? Because it feels weird to try and capitalize on nostalgia and capitalize on the past, and like trying to capture that early 90s to 2000s style of gameplay, I don't think would fit well in terms of hitting a good area with a lot of the players. Because I don't think anybody that's, the only people that are going to be kind of newly introduced to Halo is PlayStation players, which I'm not gonna lie, it being on PlayStation, absolutely fantastic. I think like we're at a point in gaming where a lot more is cross-platform and everything should be accessible to everybody, right? The console wars have kind of died out. It's not necessarily a thing anymore, and I think that's great. Everybody should just be able to game on whatever, realistically. But I think focusing on trying to recapture that magic that Bungie did in 2001 is not the ideal place to go. We're in a place where you can see it with movies, and you can probably kind of see it with games if it's not done well, where a lot of remakes and remasters are, people are getting fatigued of that sort of stuff. They want original stuff, which is harder to do nowadays, or at least inspirations off of other things, right? They want you to try and make sequels. They want you to try and make original ideas. They want you to try and do something different and not always resort to trying to make what already work again. Personally, that's just my take. I don't think that it needs a remake whatsoever. I think it's a waste of time. Am I going to get it? Unfortunately, probably. That's the thing. Am I going to enjoy it though? That's where we'll have to see, because I'm not too certain about that. Anyways, leave.